Hey guys, it's Patricia from TarantulaHeaven.com. Today we are in Ava's room, the jealous cat, because she is actually right here with me. I'm hoping she'll come into the camera for emotional support because today we are making a really hard video and not a video that I actually thought I was going to be making anytime soon. So a few days ago, and if you follow the SPIDEY'S Tumblr blog, you may know, but we had a little tragedy with one of the spiders, and it's really surprising to be making this video because you all know that Spidey is quite elderly, and the jealous cat is also very elderly. She's 19, and to my surprise, the one that tragedy struck was actually little Blinky, who is only a few years old. So Blinky is my Arizona blonde who is probably around 5 years old. And I got them when they were a very little baby. And despite having them several years, they still presented like a baby. And I'm not really sure what happened. I had gone to Mexico for a week for vacation, and the spiders were fine. The jealous cat went with my sister because she needs medicine and all that, but the spiders should have been fine at home. I gave them water. It's been a few weeks since Spidey last ate. It's been months since Blinky last ate. They've been refusing food for a while. Not entirely unusual. Blinky was a very special spider that would spend most of their time underground and just do their own thing and come up every now and then to get some water, and then that was it. So we came back from the trip and everything was fine. Jealous cat was good. Spidey and Blinky were well. I actually saw Blinky come to the surface several times during that week, which was really nice. And I have quite a few regrets from that week because Blinky was out and about. They were actually cuddling with one of their little ladybug figurines. And I remember thinking in my head, oh my gosh, that's so cute that Blinky's out for a change instead of hiding underground. I should take a picture of them while they're with their little ladybug. And I don't know what happened. For whatever reason, I had this thought a few times. And every time I thought of it, my phone was not with me. It was either downstairs or it was charging or whatever it was, but I never took that picture. And I really regret that because I didn't know that a few days later I would find Blinky on their back and that would be the last thing that they did. So I found Blinky on their back in their little plastic water dish, which had no water. It had the day before, but maybe Blinky drank, or it's been really hot here, so maybe the water evaporated. I don't know, but I saw them on their back in their little water dish, which was dry. And I was going about my day and I noticed that this molt was taking quite a bit. Blinky was still pretty young, and to my understanding, little spiders or younger spiders molt much faster than the older spiders. And so I was thinking that, maybe things are just taking a little bit longer than normal. I left them alone. And I was trying to really follow my own advice because I've made videos about what should you do if your spider's having a molting problem before. And the general advice that I give and that I hear others giving is that for the most part, unless something is going terribly wrong, you should probably just leave them alone. So that's what I did. I made sure that Blinky had another source of water, and I waited and waited. And then all of a sudden, we're 24 hours after what I believed, or what I discovered as the start of the molt, and nothing was happening. There was no progress whatsoever. And I started to get really, really scared. So fortunately, because Blinky decided to molt in their water dish, I felt like I could easily move Blinky just by moving the water dish and taking the water dish out of the little container into an ICU without disturbing them too much. So that was my next move. I was thinking maybe they need some more moisture, maybe they need a little bit more humidity. So that's what I did. And I started to just get really sad because there was no signs of this molt progressing. It looked like they had just started, just went onto their back. I couldn't see that they were even trying to get out of the molt. And so I started to think, this is not good. But I moved him to the ICU. I still waited another day and still no progress. I'm starting to think, like, I think Blinky's gone. I was in a pretty significant amount of denial because it was just not what I expected. I guess I kind of expected that through the research I've done and the things that I've talked about, that it's more common for a spider to go into like a standard death curl, but that wasn't what happened. And so I started to investigate. I was trying to figure out what was going on. So I did turn Blinky over because I kind of figured the chances of them passing and me interfering with their molts, you know, that I don't think I'm going to interfere with their molt at this point. I think that I need to intervene or figure out what's going on. And so I turned Blinky over, and it seemed like they hadn't even started the molt, honestly. I couldn't find any place where the exoskeleton had broken or that they were trying to molt. I have no idea what went on here. It was just such a weird scenario. And when I turned Blinky over, like, they weren't in a death curl. I've seen a lot of death curl videos for my own research, but also especially I started to Google like crazy after this. And I see a lot of spiders that look super dried out, or like they're super rigid. Their legs are like completely underneath them. And I really fought with myself of like, is there still a teeny bit of life left in Blinky? Because their body was pliable, and I tried to kind of poke and move them very gently, and it seemed like there was a teeny bit of resistance. And so I had hope for a few more days, and that could be a severe amount of denial, but I still had a lot of trouble calling it. I kept trying to hydrate them. I tried to turn them on their back and put some water near their teeny little mouth, and there was just no signs of life for days. And I watched more videos, and I realized that after seeing many, many more, that not every tarantula goes into the stereotypical death curl. It seemed like Blinky had kind of been frozen in time. Despite being able to like move their limbs a little bit, they hadn't gotten rigid. And their legs still were uncurling under them because they'd like lost that pressure. It was just very strange. And you know, even in my denial, there was part of me that was like, oh, well, what if this is the molt? This is the molt body. So I even like dug, I strained the substrate. I found an actual molt in there from Blinky from who knows when. Yeah, and I never found the real Blinky because the real Blinky had passed, and that was the real Blinky that was on their back and not responding. And after a few days of this, of, you know, being in a lot of denial and hoping my hardest that Blinky was just gonna come out of whatever was going on, I did notice that when I turned them over to like re-examine and see if anything had changed, that there was some sort of, I wouldn't say a cut, but there was a definite, not a laceration, but there was something going on the underside. And I hadn't noticed that before, but I am wondering if Blinky got a weird injury or something happened to their abdomen while they were trying to molt or something, because it seems like there's like this part of their abdomen that just didn't look right. And that could have been the problem. I'm not sure. And so I was doing some stuff under the my microscope or my magnifying glass and just trying to see like what went wrong here. And the truth is, I really don't know. To my knowledge, Blinky hadn't fallen. I never take Blinky out of their little enclosure. I do know that Blinky hadn't eaten in a while, but to my knowledge, they were drinking. They looked hydrated. They didn't look dehydrated at all. They looked so healthy when I saw them on top of their substrate, cuddling with their little toys. And I just deeply am so sad that I didn't get those pictures when I had the thought to. And yeah, it's really sad because I know that Little spiders, little tarantulas are very fragile. Not all of them make it. And that's a lesson I've been telling you guys for a really long time on this channel, is that, like, don't be hard on yourself. Not all spiders make it, especially the young ones. And it's still hard to accept. Like, I still have Blinky's body in their ICU tank, and I know that Blinky is gone. And now I'm starting to move into the phase of acceptance, and I think that I'm going to preserve Blinky. They're so small that a taxidermy is not doable, and I don't think I'm not cut out for that kind of thing. But I am going to do like a wet specimen preservation, and I'm just so sad. You know, Blinky, I think, worried and mystified all of us. I know that when I talked about Blinky, everyone would send me messages or comments about, like, I can't believe Blinky's still that small. Like, this little tarantula just would not grow, even though I had him for 5 years or a little bit more. And their eating habits were so, like, I would say they got even worse than my G. rosea, which is saying an awful lot. And they just stayed underground the whole time. And despite the fact that I didn't really get to see Blinky very much, they were still very, very precious to me, and I love them. I got so much enjoyment of taking care of them. And it's hard because I don't know what happened. And as much as I have support around me, it's a helpless and a weird feeling, because not many people can really understand the grief or grieving a little spider. It's really sad. You know, and my boyfriend's been very supportive, but he was like, well, you know, I'm just going to get you another one of the same species in the same size, and you won't even know. And that's not true. Like, I had an emotional attachment to Blinky. I'm not gonna say that I'll never get another little spider, but right now I'm totally not ready. I do really wish that this hadn't happened, and I don't know if I'm gonna get another little spider. Maybe one day, because I really do want to have that experience of raising a sling, but it's gonna take some time. Yeah, and I find myself almost like procrastinating the wet specimen thing with Blinky, because I know that, like, that is the final step of accepting that Blinky's gone. And it's just so hard when you don't know what's going on or what happened. And, you know, it's not like, I realized that I was very limited in my power, because even if Blinky was having a molting problem, they were so small, you know, like they're like the size of a nail or a little bit bigger. So small, like, what could I have really done? I think when you have a larger spider and there's a molting problem, there's a greater chance that they'll survive if you try to do a surgery or you try to help them out. But for a little spider like Blinky, what can you do? And I'm just so sad. And I wonder if maybe they had a health issue, and maybe that was why they weren't growing or eating or something like that. But honestly, guys, Blinky looked healthy to me. And, you know, I just saw them above ground for a few days, and now this is what happened. So for any of you who've reached out to me on Tumblr when I first posted that Blinky was having trouble molting, I so appreciate that. And I also appreciate the support of this community. You know, this kind of grief is not something that most people can really understand, but I know you can. And I will certainly make a video about memorializing Blinky. You know, I really have thought hard about what do I want to do about this, and burying Blinky doesn't seem like something I want to do. I think I want to have something about Blinky that I can take with me wherever I go, if I move or whatever. I don't want them in the ground somewhere that I'm not going to be if I move or whatever. So yeah, I think I'm going to preserve Blinky in a cute little thing of alcohol or something. And yeah, maybe that'll help me as I just go through this process of grieving. But yeah, it's been hard. And so if you've dealt with this, I really do, my heart goes out to you. And yeah, so right now it's just the jealous cat and Spidey. We lost our little Blinky. Fortunately, Spidey's doing very well. And I did move Blinky out of the room as soon as I noticed something was going on, because I really don't know what caused this. But Spidey seems to be doing well. But yeah, thanks for your love, your support, and thank you for giving me a place to vent to people who would actually understand what this feels like. All right, guys. I'm always going to leave my Blinky videos up because Blinky is so special. And I want to remember them, so feel free to watch some of those. But yeah, our little Blinky. All right, guys, I'll see you next week for hopefully a happier Tarantula Tuesday. Bye.